Ladies and gentlemen, I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. The link is below in the comments section. I used to be the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. That is also in the pinned comment. I wrote, about 100 articles in the Huffington Post. Salon, wonderful publication, actually went to me and said, we'd love to publish your work, and that was fantastic. And I have a great deal of respect for the editors at the Huffington Post and Salon. I was also a contributor at The Hill. I was on MSNBC and CNN talking about how Bernie was infinitely better than Clinton. And I was like a one-man public relations machine for Bernie Sanders. I had no affiliation directly with the Sanders campaign. I'm voting for President Trump. First time in my life. I'm actually still a registered Democrat, which I tried to get out of, but it's like the mafia. They keep you in, even if you try to get out. First time in my life I voted for a Republican in the presidential election. In a presidential election. The reason I did is because he's a fantastic president. First president. Let's look at it from the perspective of a former Bernie Sanders supporter. Okay. I want an end to counterinsurgency conflicts, regime changes, and interventions. No, it is not just the same if he sells arms to countries or if he engages in the same types of tactics as President Obama or Bush. If you don't destroy a country like Libya, which is what Botox be the exhumed body, that's what I call the former vice president, and his son Caligula, who I guess has his own AVN awards every night, which is fine, but you're a walking national security risk. If you leave a computer, see, this is not disinformation. If you literally leave a computer in a computer repair store, and the campaign doesn't deny that the emails are accurate, then you're in a world of then you're up the creek without a paddle. But that's a whole other story. Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016. They have the Lincoln Project people who ran on a marriage amendment. Remember that. Okay, not allowing human beings to get married. That was the wonderful Lincoln Project people that are now working at liberal publications. Pushed for counterinsurgency quagmires that is an existential threat. I don't see wealthy elite liberals in the Hamptons or on the coast selling their multi-million-dollar mansions on the beach. They're not worried about the sea levels rising tomorrow or 20 years from now or 100 years from now. Not saying that climate change is an existential threat. Eventually, if nothing is done by humanity, yeah. Could be 100, 200 years from now. Could be 50, 60, 70, 80 years from now where things get bad. There'll still be life on Earth. An existential threat is a nuclear confrontation, which would happen if you have a genius like Madam Secretary in 2016 who said she wanted a no-fly zone above Damascus. This is like Top Gun 2, 3, and 4, and that's it, the end of the planet. So the biggest issue we face as a country is actually foreign policy. It's something that Democrats conflate with Facebook ads. And they lost the election because they cheated Bernie Sanders. I was quoted in NPR. The link is below. I said Clinton would lose the election. This is going to be the second straight election that I accurately predict. President Trump is going 8 years. I think that it's not even going to be close, but it'll be a decisive victory. I said Clinton would lose to Trump. She did. NPR quoted me and Nate Silver within the same paragraph. 538 said Trump wouldn't even be GOP nominee. Now, President Trump has allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, including President Obama, made the funding permanent, and that's the issue, and also absolved $300 million, or around $300 million in loans from Katrina, which is a very good thing. I want even more than $255 million, but the funding is now permanent for HBCUs. He signed the First Step Act, prison reform legislation. The former Vice President Biden and his son Caligula benefited from a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity. So his son is smoking the same narcotics where 100, generally, oftentimes, people of color, 100-to-1 Vice President's son, Caligula, were incarcerated or arrested or convicted. So 100-to-1 sentencing disparity for the same narcotic. Or actually, it's 100. The 100 people were smoking the same thing as his son, and the one was the powder of that narcotic. Anyway, that's a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity. You begin the era of mass incarceration. Biden wrote the crime bill. President Trump presided over prison reform legislation, but Biden is not the supremacist. See how Democrats work? They're so illogical and irrational, and they're so inept and incompetent, it's almost as if they tried to tank the election, which I think that now it's pretty obvious. They're going to lose. The same polls that say Biden is up by 15 or 20 points or 16 points, there are also polls that say enthusiasm. There's like a 30-point split in terms of enthusiasm. Early voting, you're seeing Republicans exceed expectations. So they can't fall back on, well, we're just going to, get 100,000 votes in 5 different states or 7 different states and win. They're going to lose so decisively on Election Day. All the air and they don't have momentum, but any possible momentum that they could muster up will completely vanish on November 3rd. But the polls that talk about enthusiasm, the polls that say, oh, who do you think your neighbor is going to vote for? The polls that say, who do you think is going to win? Are you better off? All those polls say, yeah, we're better off under President Trump than 4 years of than 4 years ago, the last year of President Obama. In terms of foreign policy, I'm voting against the Lincoln Project. I'm voting for President Trump because he goes after corrupt intelligence officials. You can't blame Russia for Facebook ads that nobody has said caused one person to alter their vote. How many people altered their vote in Wisconsin in 2016 because of Twitter bots or Facebook ads? I want to know. Or the DNC emails. I want to know. So they lied, and then they impeached President Trump. Well, first of all, there was a Mueller probe based on a dossier that Clinton purchased. Then they called everyone who disagreed with them, from Tulsi Gabbard to President Trump to Bernie Sanders, a Russian operative. They are completely mindless. They're like mindless drones that are just zombies that have no independent thought and are scorned and do you know Republicans or do you know conservatives or do you know Trump supporters who are calling up friends and family saying, I don't want to be associated with you because you're voting for Clinton? No. Or, if they go with Botox B, I can't even imagine they would, but fine. Let's say they do. The people who are absolutely apoplectic, seething, fuming, completely sad and pathetic in their worldview, are calling up friends, not speaking to friends, lifelong friends, family members, friends they considered family. Why? Because Trump is mean. And you know who else was mean? Attila the Hun. So that's the correlation. Meanwhile, it's President Trump who signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. And there's a rise in anti-Semitism, and it's linked to the left. Just ask the Orthodox and Hasidic Jewish people in New York. And as a Jewish American, I want a president that supports Israel, and I want a president that combats anti-Semitism. The definition of anti-Semitism that the government is now using is a definition from the IHRA. Look it up. I think they know a little bit more about combating the 1930s and 1940s Germans than people on the left who despise a country that I had my bar mitzvah in. So that's a whole other story. You look at Hispanic and Latino voters, they're voting for President Trump. Every demographic, and they're going to give President Trump the election, especially in Florida and throughout the country. And Black and African American voters will as well. The Democratic Party is a vile, nefarious, cutthroat bunch of cheaters. They utilize Bernie Sanders. They will never implement Medicare for all. They're lying. The grift, okay, People have called me a grifter. They call other left liberals or lefties who become Trump supporters grifters. Okay, there's no grift. The money-making endeavor is saying that Trump worked with Russia or he pressured Ukraine and he should be impeached. They didn't impeach Trump on any crime. They didn't impeach him on anything to do with Russia. There was no legal statutes that he broke. Unlike Clinton, who committed perjury and obstruction of justice. Oh my goodness, I can't believe they impeached me on actual legal statutes. The grift is saying that Trump worked with Russia. The grift is getting $20 million in venture capital funding. By the way, if you want to support my voice, my Patreon is below. And subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel and tell people to subscribe to this channel. But I'm voting for President Trump because he goes after corrupt intelligence officials. These clandestine agencies should remain clandestine and hidden in the shadows, not become part of the United States, of the future of our country. And if Comey wrote the Comey letter, yeah, because the corruption was so widespread. Yet again, we find another computer a week before the election. Yet again, there's an FBI investigation. Yet again, because their own emails from their slimy paws do them in. So he goes up, Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Strzok, McCabe. They use a dossier purchased by Clinton to go out and frame and set up Trump. This is obvious, and I've been saying this from day one. You have President Trump, who not only reverses U.S. foreign policy, opposes the Lincoln Project, but if you are voting for Bernie Sanders and voting Democrat, and you're voting alongside, and Bernie is voting alongside the Lincoln Project, and all the wonderful Medicare for All pundits who say vote for Democrats, and they're voting alongside the Bush-era Republicans, the grift that's exactly the grift. You make a lot more money. I could have 500,000 subs right now if I said, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. Trump is a racist supremacist who just happens to allocate more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, while Biden wrote the crime bill. And while Biden says that you ain't black if you don't vote for him. Oh, he's a mean person, Trump. So what? He does good things. And I would rather have Trump's personality where he wears his emotions on his sleeve than the disingenuous phonies on the left and in the Democratic Party. You cheated Bernie Sanders. You changed the rules of the Senate to make it only a simple majority vote. So now you have the three Supreme Court justices under President Trump. And having received a death threat, yeah, I embrace the Second Amendment big time. Because it's a right. And it's a right that it's Antonin Scalia said it's a right that precedes any law. A God-given right to defend yourself. So, but anyway, you look at President Trump, first president to step foot in North Korea to begin détente between North and South Korea. Oh, well, North Korea is still, well, okay, fine, but at least that's good. President Moon Jae-in stated that Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Serbia, and Kosovo. Richard Grenell was talking to the White House press corps, basically saying, you're too young to understand the importance of Serbia and Kosovo having economic and diplomatic ties. You're too... The wonderful journalists who are basically extensions of the Democratic Party don't realize what President Trump has done because they're used to destroying Libya. They think that's smart power. They're used to no-fly zones above Damascus. That's what Clinton wanted, and that would have led to a nuclear confrontation. A nuclear confrontation could end the planet tomorrow. Climate change is not going to end the planet tomorrow. An endless foreign policy that has that where you have endless counterinsurgency conflicts, regime changes, interventions, that's an existential threat because that could end the planet immediately. And that can give you the time frame. The second that those missiles are launched, ICBMs, it's game over. But see, nobody cares. Oh, it's not going to happen. All right, well, give us the time frame of when the planet's going to end because of climate change. It doesn't mean that climate change is not important, but it's not nearly as important as ending regime changes because we immediately affect and impact negatively the lives of people in Libya, for example. But we had record low unemployment under President Trump. President Trump wants to open up the economy. Okay, what's the age range of the people who are suffering now from the pandemic and who have lost their life? What's the primary age range? These are questions that nobody asks. And you can, you know what? If you want to shut down society, then ban alcohol, because there are people just the other day losing their lives, families losing their loved ones, children from drunk driving. So ban alcohol. Ban smoking. How many people have lost their lives from cancer from smoking? Ban fast food. How many heart attacks do we, so coronary disease. I mean, we have 320 million Americans, and then you have MSNBC, like, 1,000 souls have, yes, that's horrendous. But we have 320 million Americans. Every aggregate number is going to be a substantial, unfortunate, terrible number. We're the third most populous country in the world. So you compare the lives lost from cancer, and it's a lot of people. If you want to go ahead and stop that, you have to live. You have to live life and allow the economy to prosper. We have 33% economic growth, GDP growth in the third quarter. The country is waiting to get back. I'm voting for hope and change. That's President Trump. That's not President Obama. President Obama was an extension in many ways of the Bush administration. That's a fact. Ask the people in Libya. I want a good economy. We had record low black and Latino unemployment. We had record low unemployment. I want a reversal of U.S. foreign policy, which President Trump has ended the war in Afghanistan, and the imbeciles who say, well, he hasn't brought home the Americans. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. He's literally reversing 24 years or 16 years of failed foreign policy. What do you want him? The man can't even survive the pandemic without being attacked and ostracized and denigrated and demeaned. I mean, he can't do anything without pushback. When he removed Americans from Syria, it was like the end of the world for the political establishment. So, I mean, he has a timetable that he's trying to work with. He's reversed U.S. foreign policy. And the people who say, well, yeah, interventions. But yeah, interventions, that bringing Americans there and leaving them forever, that's what we have to reverse. First and foremost, that's the biggest threat we face as a country and as a planet, I think. So he's doing that. And, tariffs, China is going to be, the number one economy in about 30 years, less than that. Will be a distant third after China and India. So China and India will be first and second, will be third. Tariffs are not going to be useless. And the Democrats wanted the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So I voted for President Trump today, and I'm very, very happy. And I want somebody to stick it to the most disingenuous, dishonest political party. And he does that with foreign policy. He does that with going after the same people who went after him. He does that. I would like him to tone down his rhetoric, sure. But you see what he's doing now with economic opportunity zones and the Platinum Plan. You see what he's doing, thinking outside the box, pertaining to everything from foreign policy to the First Step Act to the economy. And they say, well, tax cuts were for the wealthy. We had record low unemployment. We had record low unemployment. People were doing very well until the pandemic hit. And they say, well, he's handling the pandemic. Go to the New York Times. The top 4 states in terms of fatality rate are all Democrats. 7 of the top 10 are Democrats in terms of fatality rate. In terms of aggregate numbers, 7 of the top 10 are Democrat. And the first 2 are the first 2 of the first 3 are Democrat in terms of aggregate numbers. So, and Texas has more people. I think it was like Texas and Florida, but Texas and Florida have more people and are doing better. But anyway, than New York or New Jersey. But anyway, Democratic governors face the highest unemployment rates, the highest number of lives lost because of the pandemic, the most property damage. This is a fact. $2 billion in property damage around the country because of very peaceful things. Then you have Democrats and media with this Orwellian, we can't, there was no, it's disinformation from Russia. No, it's not. Caligula didn't take those photos and videos because Putin told him to, just like Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't cheat Bernie Sanders because Putin told her to. And this is another thing. Why would you vote for a political party that blames if you're Tulsi Gabbard or Trump, it doesn't matter. You're still, getting groomed by Russia. I mean, anything that they don't like, they blame Russia. It's like you have to be a complete and utter imbecile to have that type of warped and sad mentality. You can't even take responsibility for your own failures. And Democrats are going to lose miserably. And that's the second election that I've accurately called. My evaluation, my analysis the past 4 years has been spot on generally. If I've gone out on a limb, it's true. I'm not right about everything. But the Steele dossier was nothing but garbage. The Mueller probe was worthless and should never have been waged, and was basically political retribution. He never worked with Russia. There's no evidence of that. The evidence was literally purchased by his direct political rivals. And that's not, election interference is not part of foreign policy or national security. A political party could be hacked from now until eternity. That has nothing to do with national security. And this is another lame thing. You're always going to have countries that want one political party or another. Who cares? Who cares? Voters know, Democrats say, well, Trump is so corrupt. Voters know that Trump is infinitely less corrupt than Democrats. And I don't see where the corruption is with Trump. What? The resorts? What? He didn't pay taxes? Well, that's the tax code. The United States government has his tax returns. What? Stormy? Okay, Bill Clinton. Oh, accusations? Okay, Biden. And where's Tara Reid? No, they're not talking about Tara Reid. They're not talking about a computer. They're not talking about it. They're propping up Biden as if he was this newborn baby quail that they're just nurturing to life. And that still won't work. Give me your thoughts below. Today was the first day I voted Republican, and in a presidential election, and it felt great. God bless President Trump. God bless this country. God bless you. And you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump if you want a foreign policy, the opposite foreign policy of the Lincoln Project. And if you want a president that actually does things like sign prison reform, give HBCUs permanent funding where they don't have to go to Congress, more funding than any other president ever. If you want a president that steps foot in North Korea and begins détente between North and South Korea, you want a president that goes after corrupt intelligence officials. You think Bernie Sanders, God bless him, good human being, he's folded faster than a cheap suit, and he's backing somebody who literally does not want any of his policies. The thing that I loved about Bernie was foreign policy. I thought that he would end quagmires. That was what really pushed me towards Bernie Sanders. And we can see that he'll do anything the Democratic Party tells him, even when they went after him first with Russia. So you never saw Bernie Sanders actually. Did Bernie Sanders ever really defend Tulsi Gabbard? Maybe. I don't think so. He was silent for a little bit. Give me your thoughts below. Be here at 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. every day for my live streams. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. If you want to be part of a newsletter, it's contactgoodman78@gmail.com. Thank you. Vote President Trump. I just did today, and it feels great. Here you go. Right here. It feels fantastic. Thank you.